It is indeed what we do, said the non-Jonathan Penner intro.
Hey,
All right.
TK.
Hey, Lazerdude, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. Survivor off season, but you know what? Still hanging strong. Still lots to love about what's going on in the Survivor community. I think there's this video. We're going to be talking a whole lot about where the game is at now, what we liked that they've done so far, and what we think they can improve on. And honestly, I think Survivor might be looking up. I always say Survivor dips and flows as the
Hmm.
years go by. I feel like every single decade of Survivor has its dark ages. See, the from 10 to 11 has its Thailand. From there's dark ages in between all of them, and I feel like maybe this was a little bit of that, but not necessarily the worst. But who knows? We'll talk about it all.
Okay, so Lazerdude, the last time we had a chance to speak with you on Storytellers was actually the
Yes.
premiere of Survivor 44, so we've got a little
Yeah.
bit to catch up on.
Yeah, 44 is an interesting season. I mean, for me, there's three boxes that I think a season really needs to check off for me to be like really love it. That would be uh the characters, the strategy, and the winner. Those three things and how that's handled in the edit, how that's handled in the story overall. I think those are the things that really need to do so. And I think this checked off a couple of them for me. I think winner, very satisfying. I think, this is a character that everyone I think could be satisfied that they did earn their win. And there's nothing, I wouldn't debate anything otherwise that anybody else deserved it over them. I think the characters. I think this had a lot of characters to root for on all sides. It wasn't for the strategic thing. I have a little bit of quibbles with it here and there. There was a lot of things that were either too predictable or too like came out of left field. But there were some really good, solid episodes in the late game as well that I think made it enjoyable. And yeah, for predictability, I will admit that the end kind of had me a little bit going, oh, there's a few ways this could go, though there was a few things that I did feel was pretty predictable in the end. But yeah, those are basically when it came to 44, it's wasn't my favorite out of the final ones, and I think if I think I have a little bit of a bias because like all of my favorite characters was like on the Sokka tribe or the Soka tribe, and so they got knocked off. So I have a little bit of bias that my favorite didn't win, but I still think when the winner earns his win, and I think Jam Jam did earn his win. Don't think you can argue against it, and a very competitive final three too. I think that even though you've kind of had an idea and it was a 7-1 vote, just like all of them have been since 41. Even though it was that, you did feel like it was a little bit more of a battle.
Yeah, I'm not as high on the season as you are, unfortunately.
Was I high? Was I high on it? I honestly didn't think I was that high.
You're not that high on it, but I'm saying I'm lower than you. Casey and I did the podcast literally right after the votes were read for the winner on the West Coast. And so I kind of feel like my sort of opinions on the season are kind of skewed by the whole, like, what the hell? Carolyn gets all that buildup and doesn't even get one vote? I mean, I understand it, but it's just like, you're absolutely right. Jam Jam is a very deserving winner. I would probably say he most definitely played the most dominant game out of the four new era winners. I mean, socially, he was just on fire the whole season. I mean, it was he was like a freaking freight train of likability.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there is one nitpick with how I think the season went down. It is in the editing, and that is the storyteller's kind of MO. And I think that I think there were a couple decent characters outside of the Tika 3 this season. I love Jamie. Jamie is honestly probably my favorite character of the whole season. I just think she's a very unique personality. Let's see. I mean, Franny and even on Soka, Franny and Matt, just at a certain point, they're a cute couple. I wish them all the best for sure. At a certain point, their content just kind of started to feel very repetitive. Like, oh, I really want to hang out with Franny, but it's not great for my game, but I like her so much. Just rinse, repeat every episode, basically. And there was kind of like a repetition with this season in general. I feel like all of the Tika 3 just got ridiculously bloated edits. Like, we're talking Samoa Russell Hant style bloated edit. It's not that bad. Well, but
I was thinking about I just thought about this now, and I was thinking about like what was the other time in Survivor we saw like a dominant alliance that seemingly was on the outs at the beginning of the merge and then took control. Was there in a Survivor? And the first thing that came to my mind was the Denise Malcolm sort of thing that happened in Philippines, and I think it was like, what's the difference between these two groupings? And I think the difference was that I think likability had a lot to do with it. There was like Malcolm had a cockiness to him, but it was also like a charming cockiness to him. Where like you and Casey were ragging on Carson this whole game on how much you disliked it. I'm like, come on, guys, he's just a fan who's doing well in the game. Lay off him. But
he was so cocky. Every time he was like, "Oh, all of these people are playing into my." Look, with Carson,
Tony said same thing, and does anybody hate him?
I truly think that with Carson, for me, it's just the fact that he is very young and he looks very young. And so because of that, it's hard for me to like take him seriously as a mastermind kind of schemer. But I will give Carson credit. I didn't really enjoy him from a character point of view, and frankly, I think this whole BS about like, oh, they studied the puzzle, and the puzzles are getting so predictable that people are able to just study them at home. That's great. More of that. Like, I don't know. I'm not crazy about the type of super fan that Carson represents and what it means for like the meta of the show. I will say, though, Carson played a damn good game. Like, easily the second best of the season. Easily. I mean, like, and he probably would have won hands down had he got into the final 3 against anyone. I think he probably, I don't know. I think it would have been close between him and Jam Jam. We'll never know. I just think Jam Jam, man, it's like that dude is just like, he is an assassin of comedy. It's like, it's like if he lays down a couple jokes, it's like he's got you just hook, line, and sinker. That was kind of his gameplay the whole season.
I will say, like, when you said earlier that Carolyn got all that build up and yet no votes, I was like, I never bought into Carolyn's story as a winner. The only time I was ever even thinking that she had a chance of that was when she went with Josh and voted out Sarah. That was the only time I was like, okay, she took control of her game, manifested a new alliance, a new grouping, and voted off someone she didn't trust. I can see her do, but then she never did that in a game. Carson Jam Jam turned on her multiple times, but she kept going back to them. And that was not a winning game. Now, lots of people were talking about how she played an emotional game, but that doesn't mean she played a bad game. Obviously, I don't think that she played a bad game. And I think you are allowed to play emotional and should be allowed to give votes. I always say that Dawn should not have lost to Cochran. Cochran should not have had a perfect game because Dawn played just as good as a game as he did, but she was more emotional. But she was also in a controlling interest. Where I feel like the moves that were shown throughout the game show that Carolyn never had a real controlling interest in the post-merge. And I think she also kind of did a little bit of like the Monica in Blood versus Water, where we saw her talking with the girls all the time. Like, yeah, we should vote out these guys. We should vote out
right,
but
right. I feel
Lauren
that.
was leaving. Lauren was like, yeah, it's not happening. I know it's not happening.
Right,
I know
right,
it was all lip service. And so,
Well,
yeah, I never really bought into her as an actual winner.
I mean, Carolyn and Monica are both really neat ladies.
Very neat ladies. Absolutely.
Yeah, I absolutely hear what you're saying, and like I said, my reaction of like, what the hell, Carolyn didn't get any votes, it was very much a byproduct of me having to record that podcast immediately after the votes were read. And
Mhm.
also, I think it was less so even what the hell, Carolyn didn't get any votes, and more so, I am so sick of this 7-1 outcome 4 seasons in a row.
Absolutely.
Can we please get a final tribal council with some actual suspense and competition? That is like the one of the really big things about the new era that I just do not like.
Have we not had a really close vote since Ghost
No,
Island?
it's literally all been 8-1 for the most part, or like, 6-2.
Well, I mean, the Winners at War season was a little bit different because it had so many people. But yeah, it's even
True.
that one.
Yeah.
Like I think
Even
Natalie
that
got
one
like
was like a
3 votes.
blowout for Tony.
Yeah, I think Natalie got like 3 votes, and the rest
Mhm.
were all Tony. 3 or
Um,
2, something like that.
So you know what? It's interesting because you use the Malcolm and Denise comparison, but I'm gonna have a better. I think this is a better comparison with the Tika 3.
All right.
I actually view the Tika 3 as a less likable of the Jalapao 3 from Token Jeans.
Less likable Jalapeno 3.
And I'm
I can
saying
kind
less
of see
likable
it.
just because those three players are like, like not counting any of JT's post game, like either his skeeziness or his messiness with the game, just in that
No,
season alone, Steven, Taj, JT, three of the most just thoroughly likable people you've ever seen. Like Carson,
yeah.
Jam Jam, and Carolyn, they're all great characters. Like I will even say that Carson is a great character in spite of me not really vibing with the type of character that he is. I
Personal
just
preference.
I just don't like all three of them were just kind of like inherently like very messy in different ways at the same time. And I don't know, I feel like with Token Sheens, I just feel like the story of how those three managed to infiltrate their way through Timbira, with the whole like them
Hmm.
getting in good with
Well,
Coach Tyson and the assistant, the wizard and the warrior and all that. Like that whole story of them getting
yeah.
in good with Coach and basically like emotionally manipulating Coach and kind of ruining Timbira from the inside. I have none of that with the destruction of the other two tribes for the Tika
Well, I
3.
think the one of
Go
the
ahead.
big differences is that you felt like when you watched Tokenzine and Steven and JT and Taj like dismantle the Timbira group, you felt like that was a lot of intentional strategy from those guys. They knew
Mhm.
when to flip with Coach against Brandon and play against his ego, and they also knew when to flip against Coach and Tyson and vote Tyson out. Where I feel like a lot of the moves that happened just happened because other people made mistakes. Like Jamie and
With
Lauren
44, yeah,
decide
I
to vote.
absolutely think that.
They decide to vote, against Danny. I mean, to be fair, Carolyn played her idol, which okay, personal pet peeve. I hated how they played up of her playing the
Mhm.
idol as such a huge move. It didn't matter.
Yeah,
It had no impact on
that's
that
not the
vote
first time they've done that in the
whatsoever.
new era.
Well, that's because like idol plays have been so rare in the new era. Do you realize that
Mhm.
the only person who's played an idol correctly that has changed the outcome of a vote is flipping Brandon in the first vote of this season? That's it.
The idols were by and large pretty worthless this season,
Well,
including
they've
the
been
fake
worthless
idols.
every season.
The fake idols this season, man. It's like
Mm,
I will say I did like the birdcage twist in theory. I
absolutely.
I,
I
I
did too.
like it a hell of a lot better than the whatever the beware advantage. It's a
It's
so
better
much
than the
better than
beads.
that.
It's better than the beads. It's better than the crazy word. I do like that I actually like the idea that it gives fake idols to allow you to, play off it as a bluff. So, it's not obvious that you found it. But, it takes some skill and some time and some
Mhm.
dedication. Yeah, all that was great with the bird
But
cage.
my
I have no
God,
problem with
they spent so much of the pre-merge screen time building up who had the fake idols and who was scheming people with the fake idols, only for literally pretty much all of that to amount to nothing.
We were robbed of shocked Jamie face of her like planning a big move and playing this. I was like, Carson, pack your bags because you're going home.
Oh my
This
God.
is
You know what I
not
blame that on,
good.
though? You know, I absolutely blame that on the producers just throwing in this buttload of twists and the knowledge is power and everything like that.
Mhm.
Because, you know,
Mhm.
because with that kind of shit out there, that makes people want to play conservatively.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a thing for a while that Jeff has tried to keeps on trying to find ways to protect the big players. He's been trying to force it started all the way from making it from a final 2 to a final 3.
We're
And
just going
then
to have a
he
final
started
7 at this point.
yeah, or like and then of course with the fire making twist, but I think all it's doing is making people attack the bigger targets
Mm-hmm.
early instead
Mm-hmm.
of waiting to the end because it's too risky. And I like Rob Sesternino said this, and I think he commended the end part of this season for not having too many times where they took the normal vote away from the contestants. And so I want more of that where you don't take away all these votes with all these twists. Look, I still will say this. I like the fact that only half the players are eligible for elimination at the merge. I like stop calling it earn the merge. It's stupid. Just say these players are eligible for elimination.
Mm-hmm.
Do that. That's fine. But when it comes down to it, like all these other things were just like, hey, split up into other groups and so it's like too much.
Yeah, that
Let
the
players
episode
play.
after the merge was like that was like a low point, I think, for a lot of people because it's just like all we want to see is these 10 people or 11 people at that point getting together for a vote. That's all we wanted. And they had the story set up. Danny was being targeted. You know, it's God,
Yeah.
that is so frustrating to me. So frustrating. But you're right. From Final 10 onwards, I will say this has been absolutely the cleanest game of Survivor in the new era. It just sucks that the pre-merge was like just as bad, if not worse, about the twist than the show's ever been.
Well, yeah, I still don't like the fact that, like, hey, you're swapped to a new tribe, here's a free idol. Like
Mm-hmm.
that to me is
Well, we
worse
need
than
actual
the
tribe swaps and not just like one person going over.
yes,
That's the
yes,
thing.
absolutely. Absolutely. I was just saying that to me is worse than like the Aaron James
Mm,
Frosty Sharia situation because like it's like you're switching, but then you're also giving them a superpower not to be voted out. Just let the players be able to play.
totally, totally. Okay,
But yeah,
let's see.
anyways, let's go to the what's next?
Oh, is there anything else about 44? I will say with 44, I do think, unfortunately, there were just some characters that just straight up kind of became red shirts as the season went on. Lauren is a pretty clear example. Casey and I kind of talked
Hmm.
about this in the finale, where it's like it kind of felt like Lauren's whole edit was just sort of building up to the whole, the big speech that she gives at her vote out, and it's like that would have hit a lot better. And it's not like she's been like she is far from the worst edited finalist of all time, but like in this new era, it should just be like nobody should be that under edited going into a final episode.
You know what I think we need more of in the future?
Hmm.
We need to see other alliances.
Mm-hmm.
Like end game alliances before we're at the end game.
And
Because
I
I feel
actually
like
think
that's the
that's one of
biggest
the reasons.
problem.
Sorry.
I was saying that was the biggest problem this season is who else was saying I'm going to the end with you other than the Tika 3. Nobody else was saying that. Everyone else was just like, "Well, let's work together for this vote. Then we'll vote off Danny." Or then we'll, and I'm sure there were conversations, even if people were lying.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and when you only are showing one alliance that is committing to each other, even if they consider voting one another out at certain points of the game, I mean, that it still feels like this is the only solid group that's together, and it makes it more predictable. You need to show even if it's a vote alliance that doesn't last long, show us them making it, make us
Totally.
feel like, oh, this is a possibility.
And honestly, I feel like we're halfway there this season, and I feel like the presence of the Tika 3 as just big fan favorite rootable characters that were an alliance from very early on in the season, I feel like that's a big part of the reason why production loves this season, why casuals love this season so much, is that it is like the Tika 3 by and large really has been one of the only alliances that has stuck it out from the pre-merge all the way up until the end game in the new era.
Yeah.
But I agree that, just because an alliance doesn't make it to the end of the game doesn't mean we shouldn't know about it.
But anyway, like 44, it's a good season. I like the winner. I like last season was honestly very tough for me because I still to this day I cannot wrap my head around why that person won. And I know it's personal bias and everything, but I still can't give yeah, you called it. But I still can't give myself I still can't wrap my head around it and why that happened, and it doesn't make sense to me, and it feels like it was because of other things that we just did not see or could not get in a show that's only an hour long. But
So are you
but this
saying
season I
43
understood.
would be your lowest ranked of the 4?
It's hard because like 44, I think like the winner is more solid for me, but also there was a lot less big moves.
Mm-hmm.
There was just a lot of characters voting and stuff. There wasn't any big betrayals of alliances. Like even when Danny turned on Franny, it didn't feel like it was all that much of a who big backstab betrayal
It
like
really didn't,
Cody
no.
and Jesse. Like that moment, like there were moments where like the alliances crumbled and it felt like bigger, but I feel like it was more satisfying for me in the end, where I felt like 43 was a lot of big build up and then it ended on a that for me, where I feel like it was a little bit more of a steady pace, but it ended in a satisfying way that I can at least comprehend and understand. So I mean I know it's personal, but for me the winner plays a huge
Mm-hmm.
role in my enjoyability of a season.
So what would you have ranked as your out of the 4 as the lowest ranked?
I guess it depends on what your rank like and how you're ranking. Like if I was to rank which one of these seasons had the worst
From a
winner edit,
storytelling perspective.
yeah, for storytelling, 41 would have, I think, the worst winner edit.
Mm-hmm.
42 is very solid. I don't really have any major complaints about 42. Other than the regular complaints that stuck around from 41.
Mm-hmm.
43. Okay, if I was to rank them, all right, let me just rank them. I would
Yeah.
say, personally, I would say it's 42 as the best. Oh, I'm probably gonna get flagged for this. I think I enjoyed 41 more than 44,
Okay.
and then I'd put 43 at the bottom.
All right. Well, I very much agree with you about 44 being the best of the new era. That was the one season where, in spite of, yes, there were some bullshit
42,
twists, but it was like the character development on that season was so strong, in my opinion. Just it really felt like everyone got something that season.
Yeah.
From a story perspective.
You said 44, by the way.
I'm sorry. I meant 42. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I figured. I just wanted everyone to know.
Thank you. Number 2 for me, this is probably going to be pretty heinous. Like, I think way more controversial than any of your takes. My number 2 for me is honestly 43. And that's just because I actually appreciate what a wild left turn Gabler's win was. Because, like, even though I did technically call it, I was still shocked. Don't get me wrong. I was still shocked.
Absolutely, yeah.
And just, I feel like a result like that, even though Yam Yam is very clearly a better player and a more likable winner than Gabler, I still find a result like that to be very, very interesting. And I maintain, like, I am one of the very, very few people in the Survivor fandom that is just straight up not a Cassidy fan. I do not get the hype about Cassidy. For me, I kind of see the flaws in Cassidy's game like the jury did. I feel like she played up the whole, like, oh, I've never been on the wrong side of the vote, like, way too much. And she really kind of burned Carla at the end. I feel like that was like her biggest.
Carla came after her.
She came after her, yes, but I'm just saying the way that she handled the Carla situation was not great. I don't know, but overall, like, by and large, I definitely think the Jesse Cody blindside, the Cody blindside in Final Six, that is like not only easily the best blindside of the new era from a gameplay perspective, but it's probably one of the biggest, most dramatic betrayals ever on the show. And I don't take that lightly. Like, 43 is a dark season for sure.
It's probably the biggest betrayal since Boston Robin Lex.
I would actually sign off on that. Yeah. I mean, thank God Cody's not about to go, have a big self-grandizing speech about it. But yeah, I don't know. I just really appreciate the emotional complexity and kind of the darker elements of 43. And I do think the cast was not great. Like, it certainly wasn't up to the same standards as 42. But I still think the cast was more hit than miss. I will say, though, 43 did have a lull kind of like in the post-merge before the Cody stuff where there was a slow, a slow side to the season for sure.
43 had higher highs.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
But I think it had a lot of like there's just a lot of stuff for me. It was just like, well, why aren't we telling the stories of the people who actually made it to the end?
No, I get that. So then I guess my number 3 out of 4 would be 44. And 44 is not a bad season. It's just I found by the end of it, I just thought that Yam Yam winning was just painfully predictable. Like, I honestly called him winning as early as like episode 2 or 3. So the whole season for me was kind of just an exercise in inevitability.
Well, I don't think it was like you might have called it, but I don't think it was like that apparently. Like, I think everyone kind of felt like Carson was the guy that was going to get clipped at the fire making or right before. But I don't think like Yam Yam, like, honestly, I was surprised when he got through the final 5 vote like unscathed at all. Like, that to me was like, what? And but yeah,
I guess that's kind of like part of my frustration, though. I mean, it's like he played a damn good game, but like, holy shit, those people needed to wake up. It was frustrating just seeing him skate by like that. I don't know.
I think that's kind of the thing. Like, a really good season always is when like the players were really playing, and I think that's why like my favorite season is Cagayan. I mean, it's like, to me, that had like. It had like every player on every side that was played. And I just thought of maybe this isn't the biggest, but that other one, the Cody Jesse thing, isn't the biggest betrayal since Boston Rob and Lex. It maybe Tony and Trish. That probably would qualify.
Yeah, no, that's up there too. That's definitely up there. And then at the bottom, I think 41 is pretty clearly at the bottom. Just Heather's edit was trash. Erica's edit was trash. I legitimately don't know what the hell they were thinking giving those two the edits that they got.
Absolutely.
And I mean, it was the thing with 41 that's really sad is that I feel like on paper it might have had the best cast out of any of them. I mean, there were so many rock solid characters that season.
A lot of good people.
Like JD, Brad, Nasir, like a lot of really strong personalities. But that boot order, man,
Well, actually, I was just thinking, I think 41 actually probably has one of the best pre-merges of the new era.
I think you're right about that. I would sign off on that.
But because there's just a lot of great votes, especially by Shan, who
Shan was a very electric character. I feel like a lot of her goodwill with the fan base has pretty much been burned post-game. But, you know, on screen, the first time we were being introduced to her, she was electric.
Yeah, and I think, like, but once, like, the merge hits, and then it just gets uncomfortable with, like, the Black Alliance turning on each other, and then they're just like, all short of calling each other race traitors, basically, and then it just got
And then,
really
frankly, I think
uncomfortable.
Ricard had a really, really big inflated sense of ego by the end of that season that was
Absolutely.
really off-putting. I honestly don't think anyone in that end game, like final 6, was a great character. Nobody.
Xander?
Who?
Xander?
Yeah, Xander was okay. I don't know. For me, Xander is just kind of like Diet Coke version of Devin. So
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, anyway, so that's kind of like I kind of still have a little bit more fonder. Maybe 41 has just been too long that I don't remember the bad stuff.
Well, I mean, of course, 41. There was also the whole like
I might replace 40. I don't know, 44 and 41.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like I said, the semantics don't have to be scientific, but we're just basically what I'm getting at here. Like 41 had the best pre-merge, but the worst winner edit, the worst end game edit, just generally.
Yeah.
That whole final 6. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. And I mean, granted, that boot order, like I said, I truly think the boot order in itself was just heinous that season, and there wasn't a ton the editors could do about that. But 42, just basically by and large, just edit the seasons like 42. Like, please.
Well, I will say that like 42 did have a lot of great character, but I will say like Marianne is a decent winner who earned her spot, but I don't really feel like we even saw her as a contender till like the final 2 or 3 episodes. And I think that's just a byproduct of the new eras, and the bigger threats are going to go out a lot earlier, and some people are going to need to just build up their game at the last minute, and that's what they did. There's
with Marianne, though, unlike Erica, we got a very, very clear picture of exactly the type of character she was from very early on, and none of this whole like, oh, I'm a lamb, but I'm going to turn into a lion in 5 episodes, but I'm going to be invisible until then.
Which is why it is a better like edited season overall, because the winner wasn't flipping invisible until
the downfall of Mike Turner, dude. Like, I seriously think that's like an underrated downfall edit. It's just delicious.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk 45 for just a bit. Bruce is back, and apparently he can only say 2 words, and that's let's and go.
This is interesting. We have not had a person return from being the first one out since Francesca.
I'm very curious to see how this is going to play out.
I hope that he doesn't come back and get voted off first. That would
suck. That would suck.
That is just like, I mean, I feel like Jeff would be like, no, okay, try it again. I brought this guy back. You are not voted off first.
What I am very curious about with Bruce is this is the first time that we've had a singular returning player and not a duo of returning players. So I am very curious to see what the dynamics are going to be like, where, you know, what tribe he ends up on, how much production actually hypes him up as a returning player, like what his actual introduction into the season is going to be like. There's so many interesting variables with him.
I have a feeling he is going to not be getting the returning player like target on him, because he can very easily say like, I didn't even go to a vote.
He's basically not a returning. Like, he is returning, but he's not a returning player. I mean, he barely.
I think there's only one other player in Survivor history that has ever returned and has not gone to a vote. Do you know do you know who it is?
Oh, that's a good piece of trivia. One
returning player besides.
Is it someone from One World?
No.
I don't know.
Caleb.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
His tribe never went to tribal council before he was medevaced.
Caleb is such a weird, like, his whole presence on Survivor is such a weird enigma. It's like he basically spends his entire Big Brother season being a scary stalker, and then he comes on Survivor, and it's like, let's give this guy the most over-the-top positive edit ever!
But yeah, I think I don't think Bruce is going to be targeted in any major way because of his returning players.
I'm just excited to see how they actually play around him. It's a very interesting dynamic, I think. Did anyone else in that preview stick out to you at all?
Well, I mean, the guy talking about his grandfather who robbed a bank, that definitely was like, okay, is he still on the run? Does he like come into this and be like, hey, nice to see you, bye? And just runs out the doors like, hi, grandpa.
That guy is actually a very prominent person in the ORG community. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Casey has actually heard of him before he was cast. So I'm very curious to see how he does. I forget his name, but the guy talking about how he lives with his grandma absolutely won my heart because I also live with my grandparents. So I am rooting for that guy hardcore. Other than that, it's just honestly a lot of the intros were pretty generic. Like, I'm going to step up and be the best. It's my time to shine.
That sucks. Oh, here's a little bit of fun thing. Apparently, my nephew was taught by Kane.
Taught what?
Like swimming or something. I can't remember.
Oh, really? That's tricky.
Like he was like his favorite like swimming instructor or something. They have
what was Kane's listed occupation on the show?
I don't remember.
Because I just think of him as the Dungeons and Dragons guy. It's hard for me to associate him with anything other than like
full-time?
What?
A full-time Lord of the Rings fan?
Well, I was thinking like hobby store employee or something. I don't know. I'm looking it up.
Mine says lawyer, but I don't know if I'm pulling that out of my butt.
Law student. That's it.
Okay. But anyways, just a little fun thing that I know somebody who knows him, who met him, I should say, doesn't like come to the family barbecue or anything. But yeah, anyway, like the cast, it's always still too early to tell. We don't really know any of them except for Kane. But the big news, of course, is that Survivor is going to be moving to an hour-and-a-half format, and this to me feels like Survivor has finally started reading the suggestions on the Survivor Reddit page. Because I feel like this has been a thing for a while that people are saying, why can't we just get hour-and-a-half episodes? Now, it feels like this is like a meeting fans halfway thing. Like, we're not going to go to 39 days again, but maybe we can give you more episodes that will give you more context. Now, it all depends on how they do it. Do you think that we are going to get a lot more content? Honestly, I think that opening it up to a longer format should give us more chance to get some more humanizing moments. Because I feel like a lot of times this season, the humanizing, like, just back and forth chit chatter amongst like the Survivor players has been a lot less. Like the humanizing moments come in flashbacks and talking about their families and whatnot.
Oh, I'm sorry. That is such a lazy freaking editing move. Show me the characters as they are out on the island. That is what I care about. I care about their journey on the island.
So, like if we get bad editing, it doesn't matter if they have an extra half hour of time, but I'm excited and optimistic that this could give us a lot more perspective onto all the characters of the game.
I'm going to go as far as to say I am cautiously optimistic. I just don't trust production to not just use it as an excuse to throw even more complicated twist stuff at us. I do hope that they have seen that most, if not all, of the twists in 44 just went over like a lead balloon, and they seem to be very happy about the results of 44 in spite of that. So who knows? But one other big thing, honestly, I'm more excited about this than I am about the 90-minute episodes. We get the gavel at the end of the trailer. And I don't want to hold my breath, but I am one of those people that just thinks the auction was just an essential part of a Survivor season. So just don't even, here's the thing with the auction. I don't care about them bidding on an advantage. That is clearly what killed the auction. Just don't have advantages. Just let them know in advance that they're not going to have advantages at play. I just want to see those people fucking bid on food. Is that so hard? It was such a gloriously simple, like, comfort TV element of old school Survivor.
Here's what I think they should do. I think they should say, hey, there's no advantage here. You won't be able to bid on an idol or something for the challenge. So don't even worry about that. Just get food that you like. But I think what they should hide in there are medallions, just like Survivor 42, and 3 players will get those and will have to work together if they want to use that as an advantage. It's random. You don't know what plate these are going to be on.
Right.
You won't even know you get it until after you've already eaten. And it might not be a medallion. Maybe it'll be like a certain plate. The plate will say something. I don't know. But it gives you a chance to have people vote on food, and it dishes out randomly to different players. You have no real chance of figuring out or gaming the system or holding it all to the last minute, because maybe all the medallions have been passed out by that point. Especially if you give it to them covered. So if you're going to implement advantages at the auction still, do it that way. Make it random, and don't make it like, hey, who wants to buy this? 500, 500, 500, 500.
Right, exactly, yeah. You also hit on one other thing before that I do want to hit on, and then we can pretty much wrap this up. I hate to say it, but I really don't expect this show to ever go back to 39 days at this point, because, fucking money is money, and that's like, that's a week and a half of not paying production people that they're cutting their costs on. But, man, I'm feeling it. I mean, it's like every season for the past 4 seasons, when we get down to the end of the game and they're like, oh, it's day 25, day 26. I'm like, what?
It's like you should be merging.
Me off. It's always like, you people have barely started the merge.
Yeah, so, I mean,
it throws off the whole journey element of a season actually being something that's, I mean, I'm sure there's still hardships involved in getting to the end of the season, but
yeah, most of them given by Jeff when he steals their flippin' Flynn.
Right. It's like, I don't know. I really miss when, when you get to the end of the season and you truly felt like you have seen these people evolve and come into their own. And I think the 26-day thing, it cuts the game off at its knees, almost literally. And it also just kind of makes everything feel a little less grand, because everything is kind of happening on a more micro level. So,
and you know what? If you don't want to go to 39, fine. Meet us halfway. Do 35 days, 36 or 33. Just make it
anything over 30, honestly. Just the game ending in the 20s just really throws me off every time.
Well, especially when you look over at Australian Survivor, right. What, 55 days by year at this point? I don't know. I think it's like literally like 49 days. I'm like, hey, Australian Survivor, you take some days off and give it to Americans.
I know, right? Meet in the middle. It'd be perfect. All right, Lazerdude, I think that's about it. Do you have any other final thoughts? I feel like we had a pretty good kind of roundtable discussion on 44 and the new era and things looking forward.
Yeah, I think that, as I say, Survivor always ebbs and flows, and the players are going to find a way to play. But the dangerous thing is always when you get too involved. What has everybody always said has been the biggest problem with any TV show, movie, music, is when the producers get
Mhm.
too in their own heads and start to try to force things. And I think Jeff said in an interview once, he was like, I think of, oh, that'd be a cool move. And then I base an advantage around that. Stop thinking that way. That is a terrible, you cannot force players to fit into your flippin' puzzle box. They are not pieces. They are human beings. Give them the tools to play and they will get creative with it. We've seen people use idols in ways that nobody even imagined they'd use them. And you'd
Mhm.
think that, oh, this is just a keep yourself safe. But no, people have used them in different ways and gotten creative with it because it's a useful tool. Give people tools, not overblown, flashy things, and just let them use them.
The inheritance advantage, Lazerdude. Remember the inheritance advantage?
Why couldn't anybody inherit the inheritance advantage? If there was a advantage that you could have passed down to the next person,
Oh,
that
God.
should have been it. It's literally called the inheritance advantage.
I know. Oh, dear God. All right. Well, yeah, I think that's about it, folks. Thanks for watching. I totally realize at this point the Survivor stuff is really not landing with the people who are subscribed to the channel. We've tried, I still think we'll probably go, assuming our schedules line up. Obviously, I
I
know
mean,
you have some.
I have a baby coming up,
Yeah, right.
so
So it's like,
I can make no promises.
I
Oh no,
know.
here. I have a. Oh wait. Oh, I had a question. Then I lost it. Oh shoot. Okay. Here's my question for you. When Survivor does a returning player season, which format do you think they're going to use? Do you think it will be half and half, some old school players from before 41 on, and some after, a grouping of it? Do you think it will be new era only, that they're only going to take from 41 to 45 and possibly 46 or 7, whatever they do? Or do you think they might do like a versus sort of thing, like old school versus new school, old
Ooh,
era
I
versus
mean,
new
old school
era?
versus new school. That would be my preference. Honest to God, I think the most realistic outcome is going to be like 90% new era with like a handful of David versus Goliath people and then literally no other season represented. Because David
Ooh,
versus Goliath is just a season that is very evergreen for returning players. I don't
yeah.
really feel like
I
any
need
other season
Davy.
30s is.
Where's Davy?
Where's David? God. Oh, man. Bring back the family visits, too. We're far enough along into
Yeah.
COVID. Make it happen.
Yeah.
All right. I
Thanks,
think on
man.
that note, we're ready to go, right?
Yeah, I'm done. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Let's go!